Hello and welcome to our mini tasting of the June Cheese Lady subscription box cheeses. We have 4 delicious cheeses for you today to try with us, and we're really excited about them, aren't
Yes, we are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, and let me introduce my co-host today. This is Pauline.
Hi
She's
there.
the other half of the Cheese Lady. So let's dive right in and we'll try the 4 cheeses in our subscription box. So we'll start with Wigmore.
Mm-hmm.
So Wigmore is a sheep's milk cheese made with vegetarian rennet from Berkshire in England. And as you can see, I'm sure, it's a brie style cheese. So it's got this lovely bloomy rind on the outside, which of course is edible, like with brie cheeses normally. Start examining the texture and the aroma of the cheese to give you the best experience with it. A little bit about the producer. So Andy and Anne Wigmore founded the company Village Made in the 80s, I believe. So it's been a while, and now it's their son running the business and the cheese operations. But yeah, they were inspired by Sardinian sheep's milk cheeses, but of course in contrast to the Sardinian firm pecorino style cheeses, this is a brie. So very exciting. Let's have a little smell.
Yeah. Mushroomy, yeah.
Very pronounced
Very
mushroomy. I almost want to get to the kind of mushroom because it's so pronounced. Yeah. What do you think? Maybe like porcini or?
Yep. I would say something like even chestnut. Maybe.
Chestnut mushrooms. Okay.
Chestnut mushroom.
Yeah. Very pronounced. And not just on the rind.
Yeah.
I think it's also in the paste.
Yeah. And the paste is lovely. It's got just a nice bounce.
A lovely bounce to it and nice and glossy.
Yeah.
So this is, because this is sheep's milk, it's nice and rich.
Yeah.
And feels rich on the palate as well. So yeah, the texture, we would say slightly bouncy.
Definitely.
It depends on the ripeness of the exact Wigmore that you have in front of you. Sometimes you may have a little bit more crumbly texture in the middle, which is okay. And I enjoy Wigmore even when it's a bit younger. It so happens that we have a fully ripe Wigmore here. So
it's lovely. Yeah.
Glossy throughout. And color-wise, we can obviously say that it's not as golden or yellow as cow's milk. So if we didn't know that this was sheep's milk, that would have been a good indication. And what do we think on the palate?
There's a sweetness that comes from the used milk, and it's very complex. It doesn't kind of kick you, but it's very complex. It's lovely.
It's creamy.
Easy.
It's mushroomy.
Mushroomy, yeah.
A little bit nutty as well.
Yeah.
And like you say, the sweetness of the sheep's milk really shines through here. Just kind of so soothing and delicious.
It is a cheese you want to go back for more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to wine, I personally would say let's not overwhelm it with anything too strong, too full-bodied. It's an elegant cheese, so in terms of intensity, let's go slightly lighter. If you want a white wine, it might work, but personally, I would be leaning more towards lighter red wines, like a Pinot Noir or Beaujolais, something nice and fruity. Or, since it's summer, I think a rosé.
A rosé, I was thinking a rosé, yeah.
Is that what you're thinking? That's fantastic. So, give that a try. We hope you enjoy it. Now, let's move swiftly on to our second cheese. And from sheep's milk, we go into goat's milk.
Goat's milk.
And you'll see the color is somewhere in the same color palette range. It's kind of ivory, it's heading towards white. And that's, again, a good indication that it's either goat's or sheep's milk. So in this case, we have a Pauline goat Gouda. Pauline goat Gouda is from Ireland. So unusually, this Gouda is not from the Netherlands, but there is a little bit of a connection. The farmer, the cheesemaker actually, who created this cheese is Dutch. So she was born in Holland, she moved to Ireland, she fell in love with an Irish goat farmer, and there we have their baby, Pauline goat Gouda.
Yeah.
So they have 200, I believe, their own goats on the farm, and that's what makes this cheese a farmhouse cheese, because milk never leaves the farm.
Yep.
In contrast to, for instance, to Wigmore, which was made with milk that was bought in from farms nearby, and therefore that's an artisan cheese. But going back to Pauline goat Gouda, so let's have a look at the texture.
Beautiful again.
Now, comparative to Wigmore, what
Firmer.
do you think?
Firmer, but still got a nice give.
Nice little bounce
Yeah,
to it.
yeah.
Yeah. So I would personally say it's semi-firm.
Yep.
It's not firm that you can't press on it or it doesn't bounce. So if there's bounce, it's semi-firm. Let's just agree on that. Color-wise, as I've already mentioned,
it's a beautiful shade of white, almost. Just
white, kind of ivory
off.
white. Yeah, yeah. Very tiny little eyes, little openings in the paste.
Yep.
Oh, and the smell. You want to taste?
Yeah, tasting.
I think it has like a little tang and of freshness to it in addition.
It definitely doesn't smell goaty. And I think a lot of people are put off with goat because they go, it tastes goaty.
Yeah.
This doesn't have that, I don't think, at all.
Yeah. Well, we do happen to love goat's milk cheeses.
Yes, we do.
So there is that, but I know what you're saying. I think it's a really nice introduction to goat's milk cheese, kind of cheese. It's very gentle. It's not smelly in the way that you would say it's farmyardy. Like a lot of people have this perception of goat's milk cheeses being farmyardy, quote unquote. So yeah, a very gentle aroma-wise, and not surprisingly because it's a Gouda. Goudas go through a special step in their cheese making process where the cheesemaker takes a bit of whey away from the curd and replaces it with some hot water, and that changes the pH, and the resulting cheese will be a little bit sweeter.
Yeah.
So very gentle introduction to goat's milk.
It's got a lovely caramelly note.
Very toothsome.
Oh, toothsome, yes.
That's my first impression.
Yeah.
Don't you just love how it just kind of envelops your palate?
Yep. I love the sweet kick you get almost. And then it gets more complex as you eat it. I think it's lovely. It lingers.
Yeah. It kind of unfolds in layers. So there is this lovely texture, first of all, and then once you mush it up in your mouth, there's layers and layers of flavor. So there's the sweetness, there's a slight zing, nuttiness. Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, complex, very.
Very complex. And I think in terms of wine or drinks here, I mean, in summer, if you feel like beer, I think that could work here as well. But if we stick with wine, I think we can actually stay with the same idea as with Wigmore and say, let's enjoy it with a lighter red wine or rosé.
Yeah, I think a rosé would be really good with this one.
Yeah.
No,
absolutely. Right, so on to our third cheese. And for this one, we're traveling over to Italy, to the region called Veneto. So that's in the north of Italy. And the cheese that we're going to try is called Formaggio Ubriaco Rosso. So for any of you who know a little bit of Italian, you'll know the word formaggio means cheese. But Ubriaco Rosso essentially means that it's a drunken red cheese. And you will see why. It has this lovely purple rind, and that comes from bathing this entire cheese as it's maturing in barrels full of wine must. So and that explains the rind, but obviously it will permeate the cheese and will translate into the aroma and the flavor of the cheese as well. So texture-wise,
firmer.
A bit firmer. Yeah. If we compare it, feel free to play with your cheese at home. Nobody will see. Yeah, it's a bit firmer comparative to, there goes my cheese. Clean goat Gouda.
Yeah.
It's a little bit crumbly. It almost kind of reminds you of a cheddar.
Yes.
Without being a cheddar. Here's a little interesting detail about Ubriaco. It's actually made like a Piave.
Okay.
Piave is a classic Italian cheese, and it does have that crumble and that natural fruitiness. Really mature Piaves that I've tried, so kind of first hard in texture, and they have that intense fruitiness like Parmigiano Reggiano. It's beautiful. You should try it as well. But yeah, crumbly, firm. Let's have a sniff.
You really get the wine, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah, the fruitiness from the wine really is very obvious.
Really kind of almost punches you in the good way. It's really noticeable. It's gorgeous. Well, let's have a try.
Yeah, it goes really into the paste as well. The the wine flavour. Lingers.
It's
Beautiful.
an explosion. It does kind of transport you to Italy almost. Like if you close your eyes, you're in sunny Italy, you'll be thinking, perhaps I should enjoy it with a glass of wine. I think the rosé that we keep mentioning for the other cheeses we've tried so far would go lovely here. So that's like a compromise between the white and the red. You could again have it with a light red wine. White wine would work as long as it's nice and fruity, not necessarily oaked. So, and as much as I love oaked white wines, I think we'll stay away from oak here and go fruity.
And can I ask, what would you do with the rind on this one?
The rind is edible. I don't. Sometimes it does get a little bit moldier than others. It is a rind, and rinds tend to grow things on the outside. If it's not too moldy, do enjoy it. If you like that even stronger flavor, even if it is moldy, just scrape it off. You can still eat the rind. Yeah, I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, I quite like rind on cheese. And that just gives you a different dimension almost, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's a bit more complex at the rind.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a different experience to the paste.
That's a good way of looking at it, yeah.
So don't expect it to be the same as the cheese inside, and you'll be great. And
it's almost like a cheese of two halves, isn't it?
A little bit.
Nearer the rind, it definitely is a little bit more...
Let's say it offers different aspects. I like to think of, I would say this is a cheese in two acts. So it has the internal act and then the external act, which you can enjoy for different reasons. And you may be wondering at home, why do the Italians bathe their cheeses in wine? This is not an exception. There are many Italian cheeses that are bathed in wine. I believe this tradition was born, as the story goes, during the World War I, when the farmers were trying to hide their precious cheeses from the soldiers that were about to come through the village, and they hid them in wine barrels, and apparently that helped them to preserve their cheeses, and we ended up with this delicious kind of cheese emerge. So fantastic. Absolutely amazing. So now on to our final cheese. And of course, we like to balance our cheese board in terms of textures and flavors, and we do like to finish on a big note. So if you have a strong blue, it would naturally go to the end of the cheese board. And this is quite a strong blue, just to give you the heads up here. The name of the cheese is Bleu d'Écosse. It's from Midi-Pyrénées in France. And you may know another famous French cheese from roughly the same area of France called Roquefort. So just to help you relate this cheese in your mind, it is quite similar to Roquefort, but in contrast, it's made with cow's milk. So if you find Roquefort texture a little bit kind of heading towards white in color, this will have little hints of kind of golden, creamy color to it. Nice deep pockets of blue, you can see. That doesn't necessarily always mean that the blue cheese is strong, but in this case it is. So it does have a good bite to it. Yeah.
I think the first time you smell it, quite farmyardy.
It has a little bit of farmyardiness to it, but mushroomy as well. Yeah. Again, we have that mushroomy note, which is quite a common occurrence, let's say, in blue cheeses. A little bit of a tang. I think there's a tang as well. And we can see, even when we pick up the cheese, it does crumble. It's because of the pockets of the blue kind of breaking the cheese up a little bit. But once we get it on the palate, super creamy.
We've got a little hit of saltiness. And then the creaminess comes through, and it's quite mouth coating, and it's very lingering.
Yeah.
And it is absolutely gorgeous.
I love that dense cream texture, how it just kind of disappears on your palate and leaves that fantastic flavor, just kind of bites you in all the right places. Absolutely gorgeous cheese. Just like Roquefort, it's also matured in limestone caves, and that contributes to the character of Bleu d'Écosse. And what's great about these natural caves is that they have these natural openings called florins, and
Okay.
that helps with the circulation of the air and just kind of maintains constant temperature and humidity throughout the year.
Clever.
So it's just nature's gift to us and to cheese. Absolutely amazing. What are we thinking about wine here?
I think you could handle a stronger red.
Okay, so if we're thinking the red wine,
Yeah,
definitely heading towards a fuller body.
definitely.
But I'm not going to try to be original here, and I'm just going to say, let's go with a classic, tried, and loved pairing, and go with a white grape-based dessert wine,
That would
like
be
a
lovely.
Sauterne,
Mhm.
a Montbausiac from same kind of area of France. I think those would work really, really nicely. So to contrast that saltiness and
Yeah.
strength of the blue with the white grape-based white dessert wine, I think for me would be heaven.
Yeah. And again, with the rind on this one?
The rind on this one is a little bit sticky. It's actually a rindless cheese, and then they wrap it in foil, and it does kind of make it a little bit sticky inside. So personally, I would cut the rind off. It's a little bit too much for me. Would you eat it?
I have ate it, and I think it's a little bit gritty.
A little bit gritty.
A little bit gritty, but it's not unpleasant.
Mhm.
But I would certainly look at the rind before I had it.
Yeah.
If it was too dark, I probably wouldn't have it. But I could easily have on this one.
So it's up to you. It's not going to do you
Yeah.
any harm.
No.
It's kind of rindless cheese, like I say, but there is the outside of the cheese that gets a little bit sticky. So do give it a try. If you don't like it, cut it off. That's not a problem at all. So there we have our June cheese board. 4 delicious cheeses.
Absolutely.
Various textures, various milks. So we had sheep's, goat, and 2 cows milk cheeses. We had different countries covered. You can have them with maybe the same rosé wine until you get to the blue, but it's completely up to you. There are no rules really. As long as you enjoy it, that's the most important thing. I hope you liked it. I hope you enjoyed the cheese board. If you have any comments, please do let us know how we can make these videos better for you. Please let us know in the comments which cheese was your favorite, and we look forward to seeing you next time.